all of our Zoom family. And our Zoom family, they like to start on time too. So we're going to start on time. So welcome, welcome. My name is Cindy Cummings, and I am one of the founders of LT Senior Services. And we are a nonprofit, and the nonprofit was formed to help older adults and their families as they navigate through the older segment of their life, like me. So we do lots of different things. One of the things that we do is educational webinars and seminars, which is what today is. We offer them monthly in conjunction with the library. In addition, we have the Aging Well Expo. It will be in September. We're super excited about that. We already have our speakers set for that. We also offer the flu shot at that event. So I hope you can come to that. In addition, we have some things coming up. We have Shred Day. It is Tuesday, March 28th. It's at Lakeway Aquatic Physical Therapy parking lot, which is basically at the corner of Lakeway Boulevard and 620. It is free, but we do take donations. We've had entire businesses bring an entire pickup load. They gave us their next donation. So that worked out really well. You don't have to take off your staples or your paper clips. And we have another that's coming up. This is the Lakeway Heritage Bus Tour and Social. And so has anybody gone on the Heritage Bus Tour before? What'd you think?
Great.
Was it great?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've lived here 21 years. I've never gone.
Oh, you
I was
should
like,
go.
by darn it, I'm going. So what I did was I reserved 20 seats. So I have 20 seats on a bus. It's free. So all you have to do is let me know that you want to come. We're going to meet an hour before at the activity center. We're going to have coffee and donuts and fun things like that. And then we're going to go on the Heritage Tour together. So you can register online or let me know and I'll register you. That is coming up on May 5th. It is from 10 to about 1:30. Next month, our seminar is going to be preparing to stay put. So this is the verbiage from it. You decided to stay in your home. Now what? Are you prepared? Have you taken steps to equip yourself and your residents for a long haul? Learn the pros and cons about going and aging in place during this 90-minute panel discussion. So we're going to have a whole panel talking about the pros and cons of things that you should start doing now. Okay, so that is April 18th. April 18th, and it'll be here in the library, and it's also on Zoom. Also, just to let you know, all of our webinars are up on YouTube. So if you have come today and you have a friend, somebody that you want to hear about the webinar, they can go to YouTube and look up LT Senior Services, and they're all on YouTube. So we're getting very, very fancy, as I like to say. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So LT Senior Services is a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. We have 40 members, and our members are nonprofits and they are for-profits. The 40 members are not all here today, but we do have some members. And so I'd like to introduce them, and they're going to take 1 minute and just tell you a little bit about their business. Scott, do you want to come up? I'm going to start with you. So Scott's the very back. Everybody else, if you'll come line up here along the wall, then we'll be able to introduce you. So here is Scott, and Scott, you have to come stand like right. Where does he stand, Morgan?
That's good.
Is he good there?
Yeah.
And you have to put the mic next to your mouth. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's nice to see this great attendance here, even though we've got some wet weather and closer, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Scott Gidley. I've lived in this community for over 30 years. I've done a lot of work with LTYA. I've served on the Education Foundation, which is where I met Cindy. My children are teachers in the school district. My wife's a retired banker. I'm a financial advisor, and about 10 years ago, I decided to include in my practice Medicare insurance plan. I'm an independent Medicare insurance agent. I represent a lot of different companies. I'm here today representing United Healthcare. So if I can provide any sort of advice to you, I really want to provide resources to you in terms of education. I promise I don't try to sell anyone anything, but to most people, Medicare is as clear as mud. So if I can help you just understand what you have, what your options are, and things to consider, it really is my objective. So thank you for the opportunity, and hope you have a good seminar today.
Yes. She needs to build some shine. If you want to together, hold on, we're debating. We have Estella and Adela. Come on this way, ladies. So these are our Brookdale representatives, and I'm just gonna hand the mic to one of you to speak. How's that? Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stella, and this is Estella. We do represent. Yeah, you can see the Adela and Estella show.
Yes.
We work for Brookdale Senior Living. We do have 2 properties. Our goal is to really become that advisor and support in the community and get more community awareness. We are preparing events at our local community, so those stay tuned on those. The concept here, it is the continuum of care service. It starts with assisted living type A, Brookdale Lakeway, and then assisted living type B. This is where my colleague is, Brookdale Loman's Crossing. And then you have the skilled nursing rehabilitation services at the Lakeway community. But thank you for having us. If you have any questions, we'll be here. We'll leave information out. Thank you. Have a great one. Do you want to add anything?
No, you did great. You gotta laugh at the names. Haley, did you want to come up? So Haley is one of our newer members, and we're really excited to have her here today to talk a little bit about her business.
Hi, my name is Haley Belleville. I'm a physical therapist with an orthopedic specialization. My company is called At Home Telehealth PT. I don't do a lot of telehealth these days, but I started my company during COVID, like a lot of people. And I just wanted to have the opportunity to treat patients in a more one-on-one fashion. When you go to a lot of outpatient clinics, you're being seen with 2 or 3 other patients at the same time with your physical therapist. So my model is I bring the clinic to you. I have a treatment table so we can do some hands-on work. And then I also have a box of my patients might call them torture devices, bands, other equipment that we can use to do the exercises right in your home. And then you can see how to do the exercises on your own for your home exercises right in your very home. So again, I'm Haley Belleville with At Home Telehealth PT.
So our speech today is from Baylor Scott and White, and we have a representative from Baylor Scott and White. She's going to tell you a little bit what's going on there. Oh, yes.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ruby. I'm from the Alzheimer's Association.
It is really
right up
close.
there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm
Just-
Ruby. Good morning. I'm from the Alzheimer's Association, Austin, Capital Central Texas. I'm new to Austin as well. I'm from California. And I'm here, so my family's here, so we can find her. But our organization, I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with it. But the main point of our organization is to just spread awareness out in the community, what we're doing, the services that we offer, the resources. No, now it is.
Yes, it's so fickle. It's like almost like a rock star. Like,
Okay. Okay, long story short, Alzheimer's Association, we're out in the community. If you need any assistance, free resources, anything, please let me know. My name is Ruby. I have my contact information over there in a purple folder that says the Alzheimer's Association. And yeah, good morning to you all and have a good day.
thank you. Okay, Baylor Scott and White.
Hello. Hello, I'm Peyton Pino from Baylor Scott and White Health. I'm with the community outreach team. Baylor Scott and White is the largest non-for-profit healthcare organization in Texas. So what that means for me is that we're very focused on prevention and wellness as a center of the community. So part of my role is creating opportunities for education and creating discussions of health. I want to know that y'all are all welcome to reach out to me on any opportunities in the community that you want to partner on or that you'd like to see done. Right now, we have had the pleasure of doing or partnering with All Senior Services for their Aging Well in the fall, where we provided grip strength screenings, and we'll do plenty more in the future. We have our doctor and dermatologist, Dr. Sulochana Bhandarkar here today. She completed her residency and training, in India and came to US for additional training at Emory University in Georgia. She holds expertise in various skin types as well as topical dermatology and prescribes to dermatological treatment from inside out. She loves to speak about diet and the role of physical and mental health to good skincare. So it all comes from within. And as we age, our needs change throughout our lifetime. Outside of her practice, she enjoys playing instrumental music, running, and focuses on fitness. She's deeply committed to her husband, twin sons, and daughter. She also serves as director of Austin nonprofit Mobility in Action, which works with underserved children to empower them to achieve their goals. And today she's going to tell you a little bit more about herself and also how to care for your skin.
Hello, hi. How are you guys?
Good.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here today. I think Peyton will just pull up the presentation.
It's right
Oh,
here.
It's right here. Oh,
Uh-huh.
perfect.
Yes.
You are the person.
This is. Yeah. And put the mic like almost.
Closer.
Yeah.
Please let me know if you cannot hear me or understand me, because I am from India and I do have an accent. So I can slow down for you. I don't know how long it took you to memorize my name. That was admirable. It's Sulochana Bhandarkar. I tell my patients, they say, can I call you Dr. B? And I say, it's really not that complicated. It's like my hair in a bun, and I'm darker than all of you in the room. So it's bun darker. That's it. So that is my last name. I'm a board certified dermatologist and I work for Baylor Scott White. I mostly work out of the Round Rock location. I do cover the domain and I'm also at Taylor. I've been with Baylor Scott White for 3 years and I love it. Love every bit of it. I think a lot of my patients tell me that they're so happy with their care there. It just makes me really proud to be a part of this amazing institution. So thank you all for being here today. And I really want to make this interactive. So I will kind of go through the slides and pause and stop for questions because I know nobody can listen to anybody for 45 minutes. Okay. So with that, next slide, please. Thank you. I call myself a global citizen when people ask me where I'm from. Most of my patients ask them where they're from, and they're like, I'm from Taylor. And where'd you grow up? Taylor. And where do you live? Taylor. And I'm like, okay. And then they ask me back the same question. I'm like, I'm a global citizen. So I put in some maps here just to kind of, make it more understandable. So I grew up in the small island country of Bahrain. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. It's in the Middle East. It borders Saudi Arabia. That's probably what you'll know about it. That is Bahrain on the top right corner there. And I put a map here. You can see Bahrain on the map. It's kind of bordering Qatar, Dubai. Dubai is on the map now, so it's very close to that. I grew up there because my parents moved from India for job opportunities in the Middle East. And I moved away from the Middle East at 17 and I went to India. And as you can see here, this is me in India. That's my husband. And that's the famous Taj Mahal. Everybody knows about it. So that's what I was like, this is a good picture. And India on the map there again, it's close to the Middle East, So from the Middle East to India, I spent 10 years in India. I did my med school training there and I did my master's in dermatology there. And then the man that I married was obsessed with being in America. So I moved here when I was 26 years old and I went to that place. Can anybody tell me what that place is?
Emory.
Wait, actually, yeah, Emory. You can see the Atlanta skyline there. So I was at Emory University in Atlanta for 10 years. I did my dermatology training, repeated it there. And then I did a postdoc fellowship there in a lab, did some melanoma research. And I was on faculty at Emory. And again, I love the place. I got so much from it. But you have to move to Texas. I mean, that's a fact. That's what happened to me. I moved to Texas about 8 years ago. In the next slide, I'll tell you why I moved to Texas. Of course, there's so many good reasons. But you can see here, these are my kids and my niece. My sister lives in Austin, Texas. She's been here for 15 years. She's like, you had to move to Austin. Those are my twin boys, my daughter, my niece, and that's the famous, bridge in Austin, right? Eddie Becker. This is my family outside of home, my team, actually. This is my nurse right here, Rebecca, and that's my medical assistant, Victoria. So if any of you see me in clinic, these are the people you'll see them first. They're awesome. They make my workspace like my family. And I convinced them to wear like Indian skirts and we went Indian dancing and that's what they are doing there. And we had mango margaritas, that's what they're holding up in there. So that's about me, gives you a full picture, and now we'll kind of move on to what I wanted to talk to you all about. So the next slide, skin cancer. I'm sure some of you have heard of skin cancer, but I thought I'd put some fun facts out there. It is the most common cancer. Just amongst all the cancers, you hear about colon cancer, breast cancer, skin cancer is the #1 cancer. The good thing about it is majority of it is so easily treatable, not the biggest deal if you get it, most of it. There are some really bad ones, but sometimes when I call a patient and I tell them you have skin cancer and they hear the C word and they're like, cancer, and I'm like, listen. If there was one cancer that you actually say, thank you, it's mostly skin cancer. Because if you catch it early, we can treat it. Most skin cancers have a 99% cure rate, so that's pretty good. So early detection is the key. If you look at some of the other fun facts here, more people are diagnosed with skin cancer each year, as I just said, in the United States, than all cancers combined. More than 2 people die of skin cancer in the US every hour. Now, this is an intimidating statistic, but it's actually, if you look at it, the number won't be that high when you consider the population of America is, 350 million. It's not such a huge number, though we want to get this number even lower. So the next slide, some more facts about skin cancer. Now, when you hear skin cancer, one of the scary words are melanoma. But majority of the cancer that we deal with, thankfully, is non-melanoma skin cancer. In short, we call it NMSC, non-melanoma skin cancer. And then there's melanoma skin cancer. So if someone calls you and tells you they have skin cancer, the next thing to ask them is it melanoma? Is it non-melanoma? The non-melanoma one is the one that we catch super early. People do great. In fact, today, melanoma also, if you catch it really early, you're going to have a great life. But if you wait 6 months, wait a year, sometimes that can be bad news for melanoma. But majority, 95% plus of skin cancers are non-melanoma skin cancers. So the 3 million of them every year. Darker skin type patients like me can also get skin cancer. I've had African-American patients with skin cancer on their scalp. I've had Hispanic patients with skin cancers on their feet, Indian patients with melanoma that was not recognized because they thought he's Indian, how is he going to get a melanoma? So they were just, putting wound care on it. And 6 months later, it was a melanoma that had moved up to the lymph nodes. So in fact, it gets kind of missed in darker skin patients. There was a famous musician, if some of you might know, who died of melanoma and he was dark. Anybody knows? Louis Armstrong? No, I didn't even know. I'm gonna look that up. I think he sang, was it Don't Worry, Be Happy? Was that him? Was that Bob Marley? Anybody? Yeah, he actually died of melanoma. So yeah, some of the risk factors that are associated here, having 5 or more sunburns doubles your risk for melanoma. That's the kind of skin cancer. So, most of my patients tell me they were on ranches growing up without their shirt, getting blistered every day. And they'll kind of console me too. Don't worry about it. You get blistered 5 times and the 6th time it's not going to blister anymore. Okay, so it doesn't work that way. So if you have had more than 5 or more sunburns, your risk is higher. When detected early, as we talked about, the 5-year survival rate, even for melanoma, even for the bad one, is 99%. So early detection and prevention is key. And finally, the 5th highest rate of melanoma is, of course, good old Texas. And I wonder why. I'm sure all of you know the answer. What's the answer? Why Texas? Sun, yeah. And the next slide, please. You can see here, we love sun. We just love being outdoors. We love being on the beach. We love not wearing a hat, not wearing clothing. I have so many patients, I'm like, wear 30 SPF and 50 SPF and use a big broad hat and use clothing. They go, yes, doc, yes, doc, yes. And I'm like, are you going to really do this? No. I'm like, I appreciate your honesty. But everybody loves to roast and toast to the sun. And that is why that risk and that number is increasing in Texas. Some of my patients tell me that it takes them 4 months to get in with me. And I tell them, that's not me. It's all of you enjoying the sun. So stop doing that, just avoid the sun and we'll go out of business. And that's what we want. Next slide, please. So why sunlight? Sun is good for you is what a lot of people hear. Sun's good for you. Go out there, get some vitamin D. True. But the fact is that it's ultraviolet light and it actually damages our skin cells. And the more you damage something, the more you expose it to repair itself. And then the more you damage it, and the more it has to repair. And at some point, it's just going to say, I don't want to fix it anymore. It's kind of like how they talk about, colon cancer, what you eat matters, because if you eat too spicy food, you can get gastric cancer. They talk about this because there's a fixing reparative mechanism that all of us have, which functions and functions and functions. But at some point it says, I quit. I've been doing this for you for a long time, buddy. I quit. That's what happens with skin cancer. There's UVB, there's UVA, and both of them cause DNA damage. Now, UVA, interestingly, B is actually blocked by windows, but UVA is not blocked by windows. So some people feel like, they sit near a window, but they're protected. Not true. You can actually get UVA from windows and you can get melanoma from UVA. So another thing that happens, which interestingly, people pay more attention to this than cancer, is aging. Sunscreen prevents aging and UV causes aging. So when you use your big hats and you use sunscreen, you're going to reduce your risk of skin cancer. You're also going to age slower. And that is why darker skin has a little bit of an advantage here. We just don't have the UV kind of just gets filtered a little more than it does for fairer skin types. So darker skin people tend to age a little slower just for that reason. But nevertheless, sunscreen is a must. The next slide. The risk factors. What do you think the risk factors are before we show you all the answers here? What do you think increases your risk for skin cancer?
Blue eyes.
Okay, light skin, perfect. Redheads. Okay, what else? Blue eyes. Not wearing sunscreen. Okay, what else? I just discussed one, having sunburn. Sunbathing, exactly. Everybody loves the sun. What else?
Not wearing a hat.
Not wearing a hat. Okay.
In a heated room.
Heated room, not as much. No. Yeah, there is UV and there are some other UV diseases that can happen, like melasma. You can get it from hot temperatures, but not as much for skin cancer. But interestingly, you bring up a great point. People who use heating pads all the time, you can get a type of condition called erythema ab ignae, which is just redness of the skin. It looks kind of rippled, but if you overuse it, you can actually get a squamous cell in that area too. So you can get a cancer just because, again, think about it. It's constant heat. Skin is trying to fix itself, fix itself, fix itself. Eventually, because I'm done. So that can happen. So I see some patients using a heating pad a lot because of back pain, and I tell them, be careful. If you see a sore here that's not healing, definitely come in to get that checked out. So good, you guys got most of the risk factors. I'll put that slide on. So increased risk with sunburn, sun exposure, redheads. The skin type matters. All of you, most of you in the room, except some of us are maybe a skin type 4. Most of you are skin type 1 or 2. So the risk is higher for the fairer skin type. Tanning bed usage, that's a big one. I mean, it's banned in so many countries, but here we have in some of our states, we say that you need to be above 18 to use a tanning bed. Most of my patients have used tanning beds when they were younger. One exposure to a tanning bed increases your risk for melanoma by more than 50%. It's unbelievable that it's not against the law, unbelievable.
On the news this morning, there's a type of nail, like manicure, it's not the dip one.
The UV.
The UV.
Yes.
They said
Cause melanoma, yeah. It's unbelievable how many of these things are just allowed. But yeah, tanning bed usage, genetics. I mean, the fact is that melanoma, there are genes for melanoma. So if you have a family history of melanoma, father, mother, brother, sister, there is a genetic role. It is good to get a full skin check. Immunosuppression, a lot of, technology and medicine has advanced so much. There are so many people with failing organs who get organ transplant, which is amazing. You get a kidney transplant, you get a heart transplant. But that also means you're put on strong medication that suppresses your immune system. So your ability to fix is going to be gone and increase risk of skin cancer. Some patients who are immunosuppressed have 20, 30 skin cancers over, years. So this can definitely happen. So if you're immunosuppressed in any way, definitely a higher risk. Medications, interestingly, one of the most common medications given for high blood pressure, hydrochlorothiazide, has been associated with increased skin cancer risk because hydrochlorothiazide makes you a little more sun sensitive also. So that alone, some people say is a higher risk for getting skin cancer. So those are your risk factors. And the question, of course, is what can you do to decrease your risk? No brainer there, right? Regular sunscreen use, which is every single day using 30 to 50 sun protection factor. That's the number. You have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. It doesn't, some of my patients, I use sunscreen, like last week, and I'm like, doesn't count. Every 2 hours, you have to seek shade, sun protective clothing. You get tons of UV protective clothing now. I think sometimes even HEB has it, Academy Sports has it, REI has it, it's everywhere. Costco has it. So it's nice to put those UV shirts on and go out and do, yard work or garden work. Protective film in house and car. This is extreme, but there are people who are sensitive to the sun. We ask them to kind of film up, you can get letters and they can put protective films on their cars. And then animal skin checks. That is coming in once a year to get your skin checked is going to catch things early. But the most important thing I tell patients is at least look at your own skin once a month. You have access to it. It's right there. There's no other organ that you can look at like you can look at your skin. Just do that once a month. Yeah. I'll stop here for questions. Yeah. No, you're fine.
Medications such as retinol, benzol, does that have anything?
No, so tretinoin or retinol does make you sun sensitive. I don't think it helps prevent any form of skin cancer, but it helps with photoaging, but it doesn't increase your risk for sure. So far that we know, yeah.
Doctor,
Yes. No, you're fine.
how about tanning lotion? Is that like you're adding that?
It's totally fine, yeah. If you want to use those fake tan lotions, it's fine. I don't know what chemicals it has, and I have no idea if it does anything else, but as far as we know now, it's not a problem. Yes.
I was gonna ask about diet, nutrition, or alcohol consumption. How does it affect this?
Great question. I have a small slide on it later, so I'll come back to that. But alcohol, there's a scientist I follow, a neuroscientist. His name is Andrew Huberman. He's a scientist in Stanford. And he just talks about alcohol for every organ system being a poor choice. Even the talk about just a little glass of wine. I mean, he drinks a little bit and he's like, it's like even sugar is better than alcohol because alcohol is a toxin for every organ system. So that is his take on it. People who drink regularly do age faster too. I don't know if there's a correlation between alcohol and skin cancer. Maybe if you drink a lot and you lie at the beach and forget it at the beach, that would probably be the association of that patients. So, yeah, I don't think, I don't imagine there'll be anything, direct though. Any other questions?
Do you happen to know amlodipine?
Amlodipine, yeah.
That's the medication effect for?
No, it's not, doesn't make you sun sensitive. It can give you a rash though, but it doesn't really cause sun sensitivity. So that's fine. Yeah, it's a very common blood pressure medication. Yes.
Radiation therapy.
Yeah.
I don't even know what my question is. What is radiation?
No, that's a great question. Interestingly, radiation was given even for acne patients like, I don't know, 4 decades ago, 5 decades ago, and there was an increased risk of skin cancer in those patients. So patients who are treated with radiation, sometimes when we have really bad scars, we radiate it to kind of flatten the scars, but it increases your risk for cancer. But interestingly, there is a form of therapy called superficial radiation therapy, which is actually given for skin cancer too, in patients who do not want surgery. So sometimes patients have a huge skin cancer right around the eyelid, and they don't want to have it all cut on and poked. They say, I don't want to do it. Then we send them to the radiation oncologist to shrink the tumor significantly with superficial radiation therapy. There are risks, but overall, you kind of balance the risks and benefits of it. Yeah. Any other questions?
Sunscreen, the risk of using sunscreen or the chemicals, what do you think? How do you kind of weigh that?
So I tell most of my patients to do hats and clothing as much as possible. A big, nice sombrero, the broadened hat is really gonna protect your entire face, your ears, your neck. So it's awesome. You really don't even have to wear sunscreen if you have a big hat on and clothing on, because it's hard. Besides the chemicals, it's hard to really reapply sunscreen every 2 hours.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to use a generous amount. Most people have a bottle for like 3 months or 6 months. You're supposed to go through a bottle in a couple of days, you know? So it's a generous amount and it's hard to be compliant with that. So I just tell them that there is some concern about some chemicals in sunscreen. You know, none of this has translated to human beings, but you know, it's kind of like if you take soda and you look up each one of those chemicals, there will be some chemicals which are carcinogenic, but they've not been translated to human beings yet, so it's still allowed. So that's kind of how it is with sunscreens. Sorry, yeah, yes. Yeah, go ahead.
About clothing, well, I would, a lot of times I'll wear a long sleeve white shirt, you know, I'm having 5 degrees outside, but does that work as well as the dark, like a denim shirt or what?
Yeah, great question. So if you take your shirt and you put it out in the sun like that, and the sun comes right through, it's not protecting you much. But if you take a dark denim and you put it out like that, you're actually now gonna get a lot of sun. So that's the advantage of buying UV protective clothing. You can get pretty light colors and they will still be protecting you quite a bit. So UPF 50 is what most of the shirts are, and those are great to buy. You can get them great ones.
Costco has them?
Costco, Academy Sports, I've seen them. I think I've even one a couple of times seen them at HEB, but REI, Academy Sports stores definitely have them. Costco has them kind of seasonally. Yeah, sorry, you had one.
One, I'm living on the wild side, because I never use sunscreen or hat, whatever. Two, what about, the laser for the acne? Because I used to have really bad acne, I would get those laser treatments.
Yeah, that's fine. Laser is very focused and it's different than radiation, broad radiation. So we don't see an association of laser and skin cancer. And you're young and dark, so you're getting away with a lot. But you won't. 10, 20 years from now, so it's better to wear sunscreen. I did that too when I was younger, and now I'm like, shoot, wrinkles, damn it. Okay. So yeah, yes, go ahead. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Does the SPF in the clothing goes lower as you wash them?
No, they're
Oh,
supposed to
they
really
stay the
gonna
same.
last for, yeah, because it's really the fabric, the way that it is, you know, it's not really that they put something in it. So as long as it stays intact as an outcome, I mean, if it gets a bunch of holes in it, of course, it's not gonna work, but other than that, yeah, it lasts for a long time. It's totally worth your money.
Some hand lotions have zinc oxide, some do not. What's the benefit of the zinc oxide?
So sunscreens have physical blockers and chemical blockers. Physical blockers are zinc oxide, and you know, you can kind of see some of the sports guys put it around their face and you can see it kind of coats it. So people don't like it as much. So they came up with chemical sunscreens, which actually get absorbed and then they block the sun. So most baby sunscreens are just physical blockers because parents don't want their kids, you know, having any chemicals on them. So they have physical blockers. But most adult sunscreens are a combination of physical and chemical blockers. The advantage is the minute you go out, the physical blocker is going to protect you and the chemical blockers will kind of start playing in, you know, in a couple of minutes. So you get that protection right away. But the safest, if you want to put a name like that, will be the physical blockers or the baby sunscreen. So if you're really concerned about chemicals or anything getting absorbed in your skin, you can just use physical sunscreens, which are zinc oxide and titanium oxide.
When you're examining your skin, is it, you know, a blotch that's gonna be the giveaway, or can it be unrecognizable?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to answer that as we go through the slides because you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'll show you the next slide. So types of skin cancers, there you go. You guys all know the talk, you know? So these are I would say, most common things. The first one is actinic keratosis. It is just a rough scaly patch, so it kind of feels rough. And most patients will say, you know, there are a bunch of rough ones on the right cheek, left cheek, the scalp. I see this a lot more in men than women, just because don't wear sunscreen, and they'll have a bunch of them. So it just feels rough. The good thing about actinic keratosis, it just has about a 1% chance of turning into a squamous cell. So if you catch it early, you treat it, we just freeze it away, you're done. Not a big deal at all. Now, moles that look weird, you can see here, that's not a round mole. It's got a weird shape to it. You know, it doesn't have an even color. It's not one color. So that's your atypical moles. They have not become melanoma yet. But if you do not treat the atypical moles, just skip number 3 and go to skip 4, that is melanoma. And melanoma is the deadliest form of skin cancer, worsened by UV exposure, tanning bed usage, and time does matter when it comes to melanoma. So a patient who waits 6 months, a year, it can go to the lymph nodes. So melanoma is the one we want to watch out for. So if you see a really dark spot on you that wasn't there before, that's new, you got to come in. If you see an old mole that you had, which is changing from what it was before, is nice and well behaved, and now it looks kind of weird, you got to come in for that. Those are your cues. But all the other skin cancers, the other 2 most common ones, actually the last 2 years, squamous cells and basal cells. Squamous cells just look like a scaly patch that becomes thicker. So it just feels, you'll be looking at yourself and you'll be like, I don't know, what's this red patch? It's been there for like, 2 months. I'll tell you, most women will come in when it's been there for 2 months. Most men will be like, I don't know, it's been there for 3 years. It's fine though, it's doing anything. And I'm like, it's a skin cancer. That's the good news on it. It's okay. Time for these last 2, even if you wait 2 years, 3 years, it's not the end of the world. You'll just get a bigger scar. That's the disadvantage of it. But melanoma is the one you want to really kind of come in fast. Basal cells almost look like a little bump, like a little pimple that doesn't go away. So you'll have a pimple and, it's, if you're 85 and get a pimple, it's probably not a pimple. That's what you got to think about. It's probably a basal cell, because on the sun exposed areas, that's the most common skin cancer. So this kind of gives you an overview. I'm not talking about Merkel cell. It's really, really rare, so don't worry about it. Yes.
I talked about it later again, but I had a friend who was diagnosed recently with basal cell carcinoma, and she had to have skin graft to replace it. So what would precipitate that?
See, you're reading my slides again. Yes. Okay. We'll go into the next slide and I'll talk to you about that point in a minute. So how to detect melanoma, these are the ABCDEs that we talk about, asymmetry of the lesion, the border looks kind of weird, the color is dark and light, the diameter, really large moles. If you have something that's more than 6 or 7 millimeters, all of the others are like 2 or 3, and then you have one that is really big, that's your cue. And E is evolution, which is the most important, it keeps evolving. And that's why looking at your skin every month is important. You have a phone, you can even take a picture and use that as a guideline that this last month it looked like this, man, this month it looks different. That's it, that's your cue, come in for that. So this is the very common tracking mechanism we use called the ABCE of melanoma. So we'll go on to the next slide to kind of address your question. What do you do to treat it? Seek dermatology care from a board certified dermatologist, because a lot of people practicing who don't have their board certification, not for any other reason, but you don't tend to know what's the latest and the best out there. So access to the right care is important too. There are a bunch of treatment options. We actually have creams that can treat early skin cancers. So not every patient who has skin cancer will have surgery. There are creams that'll give you even a 70-80% cure rate. There's something called cryotherapy, which is just the freezing. That's the most common treatment for pre-cancers. Then we have curettage, where we actually numb the patient up and just scrape the skin cancer away, because it's just on top of the skin. You can get an 80-90% cure rate with that. So not every skin cancer needs surgery. The last 2 are the surgical options: excision, which is cutting it out with margins. And the last one is called Mohs surgery with a Mohs surgeon. Again, there are dermatologists practicing Mohs, and I'm not more certified. You always have to seek out a Mohs certified surgeon, which we have, of course, at Baylor Scott White. The next one. So as you were asking, what happens, suppose you have a skin cancer in a very sensitive area, like your eyelid or your nose, it's not like we can cut a big chunk out there. So that's when Mohs surgery comes in, and this is kind of how it's done. They take a little bit out, they look right then and there under the microscope, and they say, is it gone? Did I get it all or not? And they say, oh yeah, we got it all. And then they go ahead, if they haven't gotten it all, they take one more layer, one more layer, one more layer till they get it all. This is called Mohs surgery. It's outpatient surgery. So you're literally sitting in a chair, chatting with your doctor, and we have a super chatty, fun physician who's our Mohs surgeon. So you love chatting with him, and all he's doing is cutting on you, and then he goes, checks it, comes back and says, yeah, we got it all. This gives you a 99% chance of getting rid of the skin cancer. Now, for your question, now sometimes if the hole is kind of big, like I had a patient walk in the other day, he had 8 skin cancers on his face, and the largest one is this big behind his ear. And I was like, oh, how on earth are we gonna cut this and close this? So in situations like that, they have to actually take grafts of skin from other parts of the body. Sometimes they take it behind the ear or the neck and then just transfer it there, and that's called a skin graft. Or if it's on the nose, it's not like you can move it a lot, so you have to take a tiny graft and then put it on the nose. So that is done in some situations. So this is the treatment. Next slide. So before we go to the last couple of slides, any questions so far? Yes.
Baylor Scott White does have a Mohs certified.
We have multiple, yeah. The one that I work with is Dr. Ricci, Dominique Ricci. He's the one in Round Rock. I know they have someone in South also. They don't have one at Lakeway, I think. I think you guys are referred out to other surgeons in the practice, but yeah, Dr. Ricci is our exclusive Mohs surgeon.
You have one in Marble Falls.
Marble Falls, exactly. They do.
Yeah, my husband went up there,
Okay,
and
perfect.
that's not that far.
Yeah, yeah. They have a Mohs.
On 620.
Yeah, that's right.
So Nova has one on 620.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot
Yeah.
of private practices around here that have Mohs surgeons too. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm just reading your slide. It says especially look at the legs.
Mhm.
I have a mole on my leg. I've had it for over 10 years, but it's changing colors and it's flatter now. It used to be raised, but I guess because I keep shaving over it.
So avoid traumatizing a mole too much. Some patients shave over their moles on their face. Again, it's the same thing. You can't traumatize something, it has to heal. And then you traumatize it again, it has to heal. And you do that too much, it's going to quit healing. So avoid traumatizing the mole too much, but moles can change over time. Abrupt change is what we're looking out for. So you have a mole and you come in and say, I've had this mole and has changed slowly over 30 years. I'm not worried about it. But if you tell me that it's changing in a couple of weeks or months, then I'm worried about it. So change is generally abrupt with skin cancers, the melanoma especially. Yes.
One more question on those. Recently I had a squamous cell on my arm and I got confused because I thought I had to go to somebody non-certified,
Mhm.
but actually the dermatologist could have handled it. So when you decide, when is it decided to send you? Is
Great
it
question.
on your face? or-
Yeah, this is a great question. There's actually something called Mohs appropriate use criteria. So we have to tap into Mohs surgery only when appropriate, and that's for the highest risk areas, which is generally the face, the ears, your hands, and your feet. So anything other than that can be handled by a regular dermatologist, because we are trained in the medical side and the surgical side. I'm not Mohs trained, but I am trained with regular surgeries. So anything kind of neck below, we take care of it. Now, if it's really large or really aggressive on the chest or the back, then that goes to a Mohs surgeon too. But majority of things that are not in the high risk areas can be taken care of by regular dermatologists. Yeah, great question. So last couple of slides here. So what can you do? The previous slide here, sorry, just previous Morgan. Examine and show you how to examine. You have to look at every part of your skin. Examine body front and back in the mirror, especially legs. The two most common areas for melanoma are the back and the back of the legs. And these are the areas that, nobody, who puts sunscreen on their legs? Nobody does. You wear shorts and you're just out there. The most you'll protect your face. So the legs and the back are the two most common areas. So they tell you about how to, and all of this is of course from the American Academy of Dermatology. If you just Google AAD and look for any dermatological advice, everything on that website is by dermatologists. So it's a great website to get good information. So look at your feet, look in between your toes, look at the back of your neck, and of course, even your back, your buttocks, everything needs to be evaluated. When patients come in and when we do a full skin check, we are doing this. We're looking head to toe, unless some patients say, I don't want this part looked at. Then we're fine with that, but otherwise we look head to toe. So the next slide, what do you do? All these, we talked about this as we went through it, but stay in shade in 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I think in Texas, it's like, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. Use SPF 30 sunscreen, protect your lips too. There are lip balms that come with sunscreen now. It's good to use that. Lip squamous cells are aggressive. any skin cancer that you get around the lips and the eyes, it's just harder to treat and aggressive. It's just so much easier to prevent it by just using, I don't know what she has, yeah, I've looked that up, yeah. But you can have a lot of pre-cancers on your lips too.
The SPF, I didn't think that that was enough. I usually do 50, 75.
Yeah, great, that's great. More, the better is how we normally think about it. But honestly, 30 will block enough sun rays as long as you used it the right amount. And since most patients use like teeny weeny bits of sunscreen, I tell them go higher, 50, 75, 90, that'll compensate for the fact that you're not using the right quantity. So 30 is enough, if 15 is not enough. 15 was very popular a few years ago. That's not enough, but anything 30 and higher will get you there. Cover up, skip the tanning bed, use the big hats, most of my patients love baseball caps. And I'm like, what is this protecting? Really, what is it protecting? And then it has nets here and they'll be bald and they'll have the netted cap. I'm like, okay, sun is going right through. So that doesn't count. Baseball cap does not count. You have to wear a broad brimmed hat. Yes.
Question about sunscreen. So you have a spray
Mhm.
or the cream. Is one better than the other or?
No, not really. So the advantage of the spray is it's so easy to get it everywhere, rather than lather up the cream. So you can just spray yourself, spray kids down. Sometimes you have to do it more than once because you'll miss some spots. They even have a stick sunscreen, which I love for this part of the hands, because when you're driving, this is the hand that's up there. And that's why a lot of patients get skin cancer on their right and left, hands. Because of driving, you can almost tell who's a one-hand driver versus, both hands. But so the stick sunscreen really helps with that. You just have this Neutrogena stick with like an 80 SPF. You go 1, 2, 3, and you get that coverage. So yeah, no, one is not better than the other. I think it's just ease of use. Whichever one you're going to use is the best one.
Name brand.
Neutrogena, Aveeno, these are the most common ones that we recommend. Elta MD is pretty good. They have a good online presence. They all have pretty good ratings, yeah.
We have 2 questions from people on Zoom. The
Yes.
first question, what about a patch of skin that continues to itch with no rash? Is that a symptom of skin cancer?
If you don't see anything there, very unlikely. If you
Okay.
visibly cannot see a red bump or a patch, then unlikely. You can itch for other reasons, like there can be neuropathic reasons that can make you itch without actually seeing anything there. So unlikely there's no lesion there, but if there is a lesion there and it's itching and it's growing, it's better to come in and get it checked out.
Okay, our second question, do you still need sunscreen or a hat or protective clothing if it's shady?
So, I used to kind of think that if it's shaded, you really don't need much until I started wearing those glasses that turn color, when, they get darker when they're exposed to the sun. And I've been surprised at times when I think I'm in the shade and it's still getting darker. So UV, especially in Texas, I think it's so hard to seek shade all the time. The other thing, I think there was a study done on this, that people standing in shade and using their cell phone, sometimes the sun is reflecting on the phone. And that is reflecting on you, and that amplifies it. So they said, even when you're driving, if you have like metallic, a lot of metallic surfaces there, you're actually getting a little bit of an amplified effect when you're driving. And that's why it's really, I think more the use, the better it is. Use a big hat when you're in the shade with clothing, you're probably fine. But it's tricky because it's hard to get complete UV protection when the sun is out there. Yes.
Question was asked about brands for suntan lotion. What about the generic store brand? You go and you look at Aveeno, you look at Neutrogena, but not the Target one, but HEB has their own. Brand has their own. It's just as good because they could be 25, 50% less in terms of cost.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
are they going to be as effective?
That's a great question. I don't think there are any studies done on anything like that. So, but if HEB is saying that they're giving 30 SPF, you assume they are doing 30 SPF, that should be just as effective. I think Neutrogena, Aveeno, they do more in terms of how it's going to feel for the patient. Whereas HEB is just going to launch the product based on, what Neutrogena has to offer. So there's going to be no people who have used the product and said, this feels great. Whereas Neutrogena is going to spend more money marketing and doing that. So I don't think, in terms of efficacy, I think you'll be just fine with any sunscreen that says, as long as it's reliable sunscreen, yeah, you should be fine. Yes.
From what you said, it sounds like what SPF and makeup is now a thing.
Mhm.
15
Yes.
or even 50, but that's probably not enough.
If it says 30, it's enough. If it says 15, that's not enough.
Okay.
But a lot of makeup do have 30 plus protection too.
Much for the face, like a quarter, a finger, something, or.
So some people say you have to use like a teaspoon just for your face and your neck, a teaspoon, which is a lot. It's like 5 ml. It's a generous amount. But I generally use it such that I can visibly see that it's coating it. That's it.
We have a follow-up question in terms of shady day. What about clouds? Do rays get through the clouds? A
Same
cloudy day.
thing. Yeah, great question. My glasses have turned tinted when it's a cloudy day.
Okay,
So yes, they do. Definitely. That's when I thought about this. I'm like, gosh, why is it, tinted? And I'm like, the sun's still there. The rays, like the UV is still there. You might think you're getting protected. You're not getting as much as on a sunny day, but you're still getting some UV.
Is lip balm that you use, could it actually harm you if it doesn't have SPF and it might be like a grease and almost burn your lips?
No,
No.
greases actually protect your lips because it forms a barrier on your lips. So it
Okay.
shouldn't be a problem at all. You can get other problems from lip balm like a dermatitis, but that's got nothing to do with skin cancer. Yeah, sorry, yes.
Not to change the subject, as we are aging, the skin is getting a little bit more parchmenty, if I can call it that way. Any lotions that are better or creams or that are better for?
Or just kind of dry skin or wrinkly skin.
The skin is like thin, almost thinner than used to be before and.
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of my patients ask me about their arms. They say they just bump it and then they get a bruise on their arms and they're like, what do you do about this? A lot of that is because of years and years of sun exposure. So the capillaries have become more fragile because of constant UV exposure to the arms. And then they become thinner and then you knock it and most patients are on aspirin or on their blood thinner, you just get a bruise there. There are products that are advertised for this, a lot of big market out there. I don't think anything really works. The best thing I tell my patients is to actually eat more vitamin C rich fruits like pineapples, oranges. This is what, because it helps the capillaries. There are some supplements also. I think CPL was a company that had come up with anti-bruise supplements. Again, most of the supplement industry, there's hardly any studies on these things. So I don't recommend them. I just say, just eat more vitamin C rich fruits.
But for the dry skin, what is better than?
For the dry skin, Cetaphil cream, CeraVe cream.
Which kind?
CeraVe or Cetaphil. Now, lotions are the most advertised for dry skin. Lotions are useless, is what I tell most of my patients, because they have water and they have a little bit of sometimes even alcohol in them. So they feel good for about half an hour and then you're dry again.
yeah.
So the best things for your skin is creams. They are, if you look in the, go to a grocery store, they're never at eye level because I think lotions is where the money is made. They're generally some at the bottom. So you got to look at those big jars, Cetaphil jars. You get them at Costco. You get 2 for 1 there. So it's a good price there. But that's the one you got to use for your skin. They're not as greasy as the greases and they're not as watery as the lotion. So creams are the best thing for your skin. Yes.
I see some with instructions, get out of the shower when your skin's still wet, and then is there a best way to cream?
That's the best time. The first 2 to 3 minutes after your shower, when your skin is still a little moist, that's the best time to trap in the moisture. Use the cream on your skin, head to toe, and that'll keep it moisturized and protected. Yeah.
I got oil.
So oils don't get absorbed as much. I know that a lot of people like how they feel on your skin. They're not as good as oil in water, which is grease, actually gets absorbed better. So like Vaseline and Aquaphor are greases. So I tell patients, if you're going to mix the oil in something and use it, it's fine. If you mix it in a cream and put it on your skin, but they kind of form a film on your skin. They don't absorb as well as greases and creams. That's the issue.
If
Yes.
you're talking about makeup, is there any sites you can go to see which companies do have, like an SPF of 30 in them? I know Elizabeth Arden is 15, but, I know Neutrogena has it too.
Yeah. So I think a lot of makeup companies now, since they're getting conscious about this, they will say, like Clinique will say what kind of SPF it has. Clinique definitely has a lot of products with SPF. Olive Olay hasn't done such a good job. I don't think they have a lot of products with a good high SPF. but definitely Clinique, but Neutrogena will say that too. Again, if you look up American Academy of Dermatology, that website should have like generic recommendations too. So that's a great source for everybody.
If you have oily skin, is that a preventative measure?
No,
Just
no.
oily skin.
You just have oily skin, that's all, yeah, no, it keeps you younger, for sure. Drier skin wrinkles up faster, oilier skin just kind of keeps you looking younger, you know, so yeah.
Is there other dietary things that
Yes.
we could do to help?
Wait, that's the next couple of slides, so I'll show you the next slide here. Okay, that was your question too. So this growing evidence shows that food high in certain nutrients may indeed help and certainly cannot hurt. This was a big article again in American Academy of Dermatology. There's a lot of talk about eating more plants. I tell this to my patients all the time, have a plant slant, eat more plants. For breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. I feel like, you know, I always tell like animals in general is a huge market. And I know that it's deep rooted in American tradition. But if you think about it, it's a huge market out there too. Whereas spinach and broccoli are not a big market, you know, so the advertisement for that is the marketing for that is less, but there's so much data to show that eating more berries, fruits, tomatoes, kale, spinach, broccoli, all the things that we're like, you know, that's good for your skin. There are some studies in Italy which has shown reduced melanoma risk from eating more food that is rich in antioxidants. And the theory is that maybe there's some sort of, you know, repair mechanism that is getting boosted by eating a lot of these antioxidant rich food. Now, the next question, of course, will be like, can we just take supplements? There are some schools of thought saying that supplements just do not do justice as getting it from the fruit itself. Because the way that the kind of vitamins, the minerals interact with each other in the fruit and the vegetable is just special. You're not going to get that from taking like a selenium supplement. So it's always better to get it naturally than through supplements. So that was about diet. So definitely a plant slant helps. And, you know, as I end this talk, I always like to put a plug, since we are talking about health, I always like to put a plug about happiness. So my last slide is about the happiness 401k. So before we put the 4 things that actually are scientifically proven to be the best investments you can make for your happiness 401k, what do you think those 4 things are?
Sleep.
Someone said faith, awesome. What else?
Friends.
Sleep, friends, awesome, okay.
Laughter.
Laughter, humor, love it, okay.
Exercise.
Family, perfect.
Exercise.
Exercise, good. Good food, okay, there's one more. It's faith, family, I'll let you show the slide.
Sleep.
And actually, people don't get this, people get everything except the last one.
Oh.
Faith, family, friendships, and meaningful work. Meaningful work can be, you can do meaningful work even as a person gardening, you know, just saying that whatever vegetables I grow from this, I'm going to share it with my friends, with my community, that makes work meaningful. There's a person I follow called Barry Schwartz who says that janitors in hospital do more meaningful work than doctors. And humbly, I agree, because if you're a janitor who is actually communicating with the patient saying, hey, Mr. Smith, how's your day going? You look good today. Whereas if you have a doctor who's coming in, checking in, okay, everything's good, bye, go out. They're not doing meaningful work. So meaningful work can be done by anybody, irrespective of, you know, profession or where which stage in life. There was actually a study done that even patients who were 75 plus, people who were 75 plus were asked to care plants and just take care of them, nurture them, grow them. They lived much longer than people who are not given that task, because again, it brings meaning in your life when you're nurturing something other than yourself. So something bigger than yourself is your meaningful work. With that, I'll kind of end at my last slide. This is me and my cutest, youngest patient there. Super adorable. This is what I love what I do, because I feel like my patients inspire me way more than I can give them any inspiration. And on this slide here is actually a part of the nonprofit work I do. We do a lot of presentations on health, harmony, and happiness in Title I schools around Austin. This was actually foster kids, of 14 foster kids were adopted by the same family. And we sat with them and kind of taught them how to cook more plants. A lot of these 14, yeah, by the same family. It was right from the age of 2 all the way to 21. Most of them were kids from parents who unfortunately were drug seekers. So the CPS had kind of gone to them, but the sweetest kids on the planet, and we just cooked with them. super enthusiastic kids, and then of course we shared a meal with them. So that's the part of the work I do on the side. And my last slide for all of you is thank you for being here. I am because of, you know, each and every one of you. I could be listening, talking to walls if you all were not there. So thank you all for being so patient and coming here.
We do have an evaluation. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it around. So if you'd wait for a minute, we'd love to get feedback. This is super awesome.
That's awesome.
And
Yes, yes.
it was very
If it's good,
understanding.
give it to me. If it's bad. Just kidding.
And do we have,
Can people get a copy of the slides? There was a question about that.
so, everything will be on YouTube. So you
Everything
can
on
go to
YouTube,
YouTube and you can see the slides there.
Good
So,
answer.
I would love for before we put it on YouTube, just to kind of the kids' pictures, the
Yeah.
foster kids, I want to take it down. So that's what I told her.
Oh,
I can delete it and then I can send it to you. Yeah, because it's all.
it is on, what we'll do, because, I'll talk to you. We'll get it all figured out.
Perfect.
Yeah, great. So, you'll just wait a minute. We'll do the survey and thank you all for coming and hope to see you next month.
Thank you. Yes.